I'm guessing that many of you will have already watched this episode by Sandy Munro, who has recently visited a Canoo facility, test-driven one of their prototypes, and interviewed Canoo CEO Aquila. Sandy was genuinely impressed by what he had seen and was not shy in appraising the vehicle and the Canoo team. Sandy especially praised the fact that Canoo has developed a wonderful product which is set up for success. The only question I have then has to be, why is Canoo struggling? I have a few thoughts and ideas on why this is happening, and I'm going to share my perspective on it in this episode. Stay tuned. Canoo was founded 5 years ago by former Faraday Future employees. The company has had a very bumpy ride since its inception. Frequent management changes, announced and cancelled partnerships. Believe it or not, people are even still debating about the Canoo's HQ location. Is it LA, Arkansas or Oklahoma? The company's product strategy has been inconsistent and its products are still not in the market yet. Canoo became a public company in September 2020 to raise $300 million, but the company's stock has lost a lion's share of its value since then and is now trading at around $1 per share, which tells a lot about the lack of confidence the stock market has in the future of Canoo. Nevertheless, when Sandy took a closer look at the vehicle, he kept saying only great things about it. No criticism whatsoever, which is hard to achieve when facing an automotive industry veteran. Sandy spent most of his time with the Canoo passenger variant. In a nutshell, Sandy highlighted the Canoo's modularity, ergonomics, minimalism, simplicity, ease of use, and innovation. Ingress and egress is a big deal when it comes to ride-hailing services, and the Canoo is a clear winner here. A passenger can literally stand inside, and don't forget, we're talking about the Prius size of a platform here. Sounds almost like a miracle. Moreover, the configuration enables wheelchair access too. What else is there to dream of? But Sandy was almost speechless when he realized that the Canoo was planned to be released with rear-facing and door seats. This type of thinking is truly pushing the boundaries accepted by the traditional automotive industry. Surprisingly, the crash footage which was shown in Sandy's video was also very convincing and reassuring. The low level of gravity, which is common for all electric vehicles, helps a lot, but the Canoo team also adopted some really good design and engineering solutions. But just before we move forward, can I please ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the like button? Done? Great! Now, if you're on my YouTube channel for the first time, you'd need to know that electric mobility has been my full-time job at Nissan for 8 years and currently at FTI Consulting. I actually worked on taxi, or if you wish, ride-hailing use cases like this a lot, and I can tell you that there is a very obvious niche for the Canoo type of vehicles in the market today. The problem is that the niche isn't large enough. Let's start with the number of passengers it can transport. It's a 7-seater. However, the average number of passengers traveling in an Uber or Lyft car is under 2. In some corner cases, people might need to hail a 7-seater, but you shouldn't need to run an entire fleet of 7-seaters just to offer rides for larger group of people occasionally, should you? Of course, I am using the term fleet here artificially because the so-called ride-hailing fleets consist of individually owned vehicles. All those Hyundais, Nissans and Toyotas meeting you at the airports are usually dual-purpose vehicles. When they are not on duty, they are just regular family cars. So, as Uber and Lyft don't operate their own fleets, another challenge for Canoo is to convince Uber and Lyft drivers to move away from their more well-known brands such as Prius, Camry and Sentra to an electric minivan. Hertz is running an electrification program with Uber, which I believe is already very successful. An Uber driver can rent the Model 3 or Y from Hertz, which is a much more popular body style than a minivan, but also has a better driving range and access to the best charging infrastructure in the United States. By the way, I should note here that Sandy asked the question about driving range when they were discussing the battery pack, but this point wasn't answered. The website states 200 miles, but freeway driving and frequent door opening will reduce this driving range even further, which will quickly create range anxiety for drivers. Meanwhile, Tesla can offer 300 plus miles with a similar about 80 kilowatt-hour battery pack capacity. So I'm guessing it's the price to pay for the chosen body style and some other engineering solutions. As a result, I don't think Canoo is getting any significant orders from the original target market. It's a typical product market fit problem the team had to deal with. That being said, I'm not surprised to see Canoo is pivoting into a delivery van direction. In my view, it's a much more viable approach, which is already confirmed by firm orders from Walmart, Ziba and Kingby. 16,800 in total over the next few years, which I'm sure is the reason Canoo was able to survive until now, but this approach also presents a set of new challenges. Durability, reliability, uptime and total cost of ownership are among them, but also body style. In general, the US market is used to larger vehicles. Just as an example, a rival's delivery van engineer for Europe is not a good fit in the US for that exact reason. Another difficulty with commercial vehicles is the necessity to work with dealers and upfitters. It took 4 decades to build such a network, which became a barrier to entry for any newcomer in the commercial vehicle space. You might have heard by now that Canoo is suing its former executives who left the company to launch a competing EV startup, Harbinger. I think those executives actually learned something during their time because they're focusing on a larger and very common upper body, which is familiar to the US dealers and upfitters. Just to be clear, I'm not saying at all that the market doesn't exist for Canoo. It does. But it might not be large enough, and it might take time for Canoo to prove itself in this difficult segment. Both factors, market size and time, are critical for Canoo at this stage. The company needs to quickly ramp up the order bank to 100,000 units per year to keep the manufacturing line busy and profitable, which sounds like a stretch. Much more capital and investment will be required for them to survive. A deal with another OEM or tech company could be helpful too. It didn't really work in the past with Hyundai and Apple, but maybe there is more room for the skateboard platform sharing with the European or Japanese OEMs, where the size is less of an issue. In any case, I have to agree with Sandy. Canoo is developing a wonderful product, and it feels like Tony Aquila is pushing as hard as he can with his team. In June, the company was very close to bankruptcy, but now there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully, Sandy's review will attract a few additional partners or customers. I'll be keeping my fingers crossed for them, and all the best to the team.